Waterfall, the CCW podcast.
A warm welcome to Waterfall, the podcast brought to you by CCW, the Consumer Council for Water, the independent voice for water consumers across England and Wales. I'm Cath, and in each episode of Waterfall, we share straightforward, practical tips to help you use water more efficiently at home, to cut down on your bills, and to protect our precious environment. Today, we're exploring how to make smart choices when it comes to water-using appliances, like washing machines and dishwashers. With so many features and claims about water and energy savings, how can you tell what really works? We'll be busting common myths, looking at what the data says, and sharing advice to help you choose appliances that are better for your wallet and for the planet. To help us get to the facts, I'm joined today by Andrew Laughlin from Which. Andrew and his team put appliances through rigorous testing, so you'll get expert insights on what matters most when it comes to water and energy efficiency. So let's get into it. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you for joining us today. I think we're going to talk through first understanding water use in some different appliances. And one thing that I think confuses a lot of us is it actually more economical to run one large load in a washing machine rather than several smaller ones? Because surely you need more water to get in there if you've got more clothes in the drum.
Yeah, hi Cath. Thanks for inviting me on today. It's good to talk about this stuff. Very important. So I think when you're talking about with a dishwasher or washing machine or pretty much any kind of appliance, really, people should get into the habit of not using it too much, not using it too little, but using an optimum way. You should sort of never overfill an appliance because that, as you say, reduces the cleaning performance. The water just typically has to get around stuff. So if you've overfilled your dishwasher or rammed too many duvets in the washing machine, you can't really expect it to be able to do its job. But equally, that machine to run optimum level needs to be filled to a good amount, and it needs that because we want to use the water and the energy wisely. But also, often with modern appliances, they are typically learning what you're putting in them. So, for example, if we take a dishwasher, if you choose an auto program in a dishwasher, it will use some turbidity sensors, water cloudiness sensors, to understand how dirty your dishes are on a typical basis. And then it optimizes the heat and the intensity of the spray jets accordingly to what you put in it. So if you're half stacking it or messing around or re-varying it up, the machine's not really learning how to run efficiently. So you're kind of giving it half the picture, shall we say.
I actually didn't know that machines did that. That's like magic. So you kind of need to be consistent in what you're doing with the machine so that it can figure out the most efficient way for it to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And consistency, well, we don't always live kind of fully consistent lives, do we? We might have a Sunday roast and then suddenly, but that's where we need to, and we sure come into this, use the machines as efficiently as we can, use the various different programs. Typically, people often just find one and use it every single time, right? We're all guilty of that. But actually, there is a lot of options with a machine that help you do things more efficiently.
That is really exciting. I suppose one of the efficiency things that I've pondered on myself, and I'm sure lots of listeners will have too, is what are the kind of features on full size, and you can get slimline washing machines and dishwashers now that claim to maximize water and energy savings, but actually they just have a million buttons on them and options. I mean, are there any particular ones that you should look out for that are useful in being efficient?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose if we just take a couple of steps back on the kind of what you choose, typically slimline machines, you don't tend to find slimline washing machines, but you do often with dishwashers because not everybody's got the space for a full-size machine, but also it depends on kind of what household you are. So, you can imagine like your weekly load of washing or crockery for a family of 4 or 5, whatever, is very different to a couple of people or maybe a single person living on their own. So it can vary upon those differences. So whatever machine you have, obviously depends on what your circumstances and things like that are. But you'll typically find one thing is consistent with all these machines, and that it does have an eco mode. And that's, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a machine without one. It's kind of just standard, right? And people often look at it with a little bit like, okay, that's the economy mode. This is the no frills wash. And that might have been the case in the past, that it was a little bit like you were taking a compromise. You remember a bit like ecological washing up liquids used to be quite poor, and now they've really improved. And actually, the same is with washing machines, dishwashers. Actually, eco mode nowadays is really worth considering. And, if we typically take, say, 5 washes per week in a dishwasher, could cost you on average around about £63 a year on the main wash. Whereas you actually, if you cut that down to eco, you can actually drop that to below sort of £50. So you can actually knock probably around about £15-20 on average off. It can be even bigger with different machines. So, this is a real money saving in your pocket, but also typically it'll use less water and it'll use less power, which obviously has a lot more benefits for wider society.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's that combination, isn't it, of the energy to heat water, particularly, is where things start getting really expensive when we're using water around the home. So
Yeah.
that is good to know. And you're so right about the old eco washing up liquid. It didn't used to wash the plates, and now it does.
Improved very much so.
Much better. So do you think like the labels that go onto these appliances are actually helpful to people? Or do you think that there's a level of detail that we as consumers, because we don't think about dishwashers and washing machines and certainly purchasing them on a regular basis at all, it can be quite a confusing world. So is there efficiency labels that are genuinely helpful, or information out there that's useful to people?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily not having the information, or having the information, is a bad thing. Let's say this, but I think the problem with some energy labels is there can be systems where manufacturers can optimize machines to them. I'm trying to get too conspiratorial here, but the manufacturers can know how to get a good rating sometimes, and that doesn't mean necessarily they're lying or they're fibbing or anything like that. They just know the system, right? And what you can actually have is a system where you can sort of see on the basis of the label on its own, this seems like a really efficient machine, but actually it kind of only gives you a part of the picture. So I'll give you an example here. A C-rated dishwasher, we track this one based on the latest energy cap, would cost you around about £70 to run over a course of a year. But actually a D-rated, supposedly worse machine would actually be cheaper by just under £12. So, you actually got this converse thing where you've got a seemingly less efficient model but actually costs you less to run. So you just need to think about it. This is part of a picture. A bit like nutrition labels on food. It's part of a picture. It's not the only thing you should rely on.
That is fascinating. You're right. I would assume that the more energy efficient rating would be the cheaper machine to run, but that's absolutely fascinating, Andrew, that is not always the case. So I think that brings home the need to look at, say, which reviews to really understand what it is that you're buying.
Yeah, do your research, and just always think that this is quite a complex picture, but you're really looking for a machine that's been built well, tuned effectively, and the manufacturer's understood efficiency and understood how to give it to you in real life.
Yes,
Not-
absolutely. Do you think within that there are any kind of trade-offs that we have to make? If I want to have a more efficient machine, will it still clean as well? Or have I really got to pay for something very expensive to get the best end result?
Yeah, I mean, not actually. You shouldn't have to. I mean, like, you do have to kind of pick between the choices. There's a lot of choice out there. There's a lot of machines out there. People are kind of like a bit overwhelmed with the amount of stuff. But a good machine, A, doesn't have to cost the earth, and B, actually, you shouldn't have to make a huge trade-off between cleaning efficiency and energy efficiency these days. It used to be a little bit more of a poles apart, unfortunately, but actually the machines and the technology's got so good that they're able to actually combine the cleaning efficiency with a more economical way of doing it, without massive compromise. So we've got lots of machines that are both Best Buys and Eco Buys, which are eco energy efficiency labels. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, and they're not all wackingly expensive because everyone's on a budget, right? And there are further things you can do as well while using machines to also reduce your bills as well.
But yes, I think one of those things that helps, we hear about all the time, is washing at colder temperatures, for example, at, 30 degrees. I'll be honest, I know I've said this before on Waterfall. I always have a bit of a worry that I don't mind washing my clothes at a colder temperature, but I always feel towels and bed sheets all need a kind of hot wash. And I don't know if that's actually true anymore.
Yeah, no, there's suppose there's some things which you would kind of hope to require some level of the kind of the sanitizing effect of a higher temperature. There are cases for that. On a typical load, though, daily washes, daily dishes, they're just general stains, this and that, the other. You can actually cut down the temperature and not compromise. So, for example, if you reduced down to 30 degrees C in a washing machine, we calculate you would save around just shy of 40% in energy use. Well, if you went down to 20%, you'd actually save just over 60%. So you're making a huge, huge saving over the course of a year. Average wash machine costs around £65 a year to run for 4 washes, but actually dropping that down to 30 degrees C, you'd save around save around £25. Going down to 20, you save about 40 quid a year. So that's a nice night out at the theatre or something like that. And actually, you don't necessarily have to compromise on stain removal if you wash at these temperatures. As I say, there might be a time where you do have to increase the temperature for whatever reason. But actually, if you want to go colder, they've got a lot better. And actually, if you use liquid detergent, you can actually really often get quite good results.
That is so exciting. And these are significant savings, each on their own is relatively small, like you say, maybe a meal out or something, which is a very nice thing to be able to do. But actually, as we start stacking these savings up, it's quite significant, isn't it? And, across the course of a year, especially, if you're a family of 4 and you've got that washing machine running all the time, the dishwasher running every night, that's really, really great news. What a saving. Is there anything any hidden costs within all of this or practical drawbacks to having chosen the efficient machines?
Well, I wouldn't say so. As I say, you do occasionally see a slight dip in cleaning performance or drying efficiency by choosing an eco mode. Typically, if they're not getting to us, sometimes a machine will use, particularly with dishwashers, will use the intensity of the heat of the wash, the steam, to actually sort of dry and as part of the drying process. So you can occasionally see a slight dip in cleaning and drying efficiency. But to be perfectly honest, gone are the days when it was poles apart, and actually you shouldn't see a massive drawback. And as I say, if you think about the saving you're getting, I mean, I use Eco on my dishwasher all the time. That's the only mode I use. I'm quite happy with the cleaning. Obviously, you can imagine I'm quite picky, so I'm quite happy to do it myself. So it's practice when you preach, but you shouldn't have a massive trade off. To be perfectly honest.
That is fab news. I think one thing that I think you've done testing on actually at which, Andrew, and an argument I have certainly heard from friends and family is you can never get something as clean in a machine as you can if you're scrubbing it by hand. I don't know why people would want to put in that additional elbow grease, but I know there are some people who believe that. And I think you've done some testing on this, haven't you, between washing things by hand compared to how much you can get in a dishwasher and how far your water goes and your energy goes in each circumstance?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we've got to remember here that a typical full size dishwasher will wash, if it's full, between sort of maybe 11 to maybe up to 16 place settings. So, I mean, in theory, that's up to about 160 items per wash. That's a lot, and that'll be a family of 4s, everything. Obviously, that depends on the size of the items and it reduces down. But I mean, if you would think that to hand wash all that stuff, it's going to take forever.
It's a day's work.
And also, typically, we estimate you could wash maybe a couple of place settings in a 9 litre bowl before the water's so dirty. And you think actually a dishwasher, typically on average, full size, will take around about 13 litres of water to clean 140 items, 14 place settings. If you drop that down to eco mode, you actually get that below 10 litres. So you're thinking to clean those 2 litres by hand in the sink with your 9 litre tub, that dishwasher in eco mode will pretty much do 140 items. And also, let's be honest, you're saving on the boiler, not having to turn the heating on. You're saving on your own water, but you're also saving on your own time. Because shut the door, walk away, have a cup of tea, go and watch something. And, that's what the machine's there for. It does the job for you.
I love that. And actually, that's amazing that, as you say, 9 litres in a washing up bowl, but actually the machine can do so much more for a litre of water more. It's actually hugely efficient. And is there anything Would you say within the durability, for instance, my washing up bowl has been with me for many years now and seems to be surviving. So is there any concern perhaps around the durability or lifespan of machines? Are there some that are better than others or?
Yeah, it really does vary by brands. So there are brands with really good reliability ratings. They're not always the most expensive ones. There's sometimes a feeling you have to spend good money, to get something good. Not always true these days. There are some really good brands with good reliability records. We survey real owners every year, so we this is based on real customers who've owned these machines for 7 years, 6, 7 years. We're actually just about to publish our new findings very shortly, actually. So buying a good brand, buying a good machine, and it should run fault free for for the first 7 years, and they should typically on dishwashers should run for about 13 years. So you're getting a long time of use out of this appliance, and obviously buy a good efficient one to start with. If you think over that 13-year period, obviously we know water rates, energy rates can flux. There's been a lot of change in there. That's a whole different podcast
Yes.
itself. Over that period of time, you should have consistent good savings. And you should just be able to sort of, put it in your kitchen and let it get on with it.
I love that. And I think that, that is getting on for the age of my washing up bowl. So clearly there's real durability in these machines as well. I think
Yeah.
I might need to invest in a dishwasher at some point. Are there perhaps any common myths that we should be aware of when we're looking at making these kind of purchases?
Yeah, so one of the big ones we get is the eco mode should use more water. So eco modes typically can take 4 to 5 hours. Some are quicker, but people think if you're running the cycle over 5 hours, well, surely you're going to use loads more water, right? But actually, that's the inverse is true. Because if you think about if you're running a quick cycle, so say it's an hour or half an hour, whatever, that machine knows it's got to get that whole dishes clean in a very short space of time. So it's almost like it's racing to the airport. It's driving,
Right.
revving the car, it's going hell for leather, and it's not driving efficiently. So it's actually using more petrol because it's not driving in an efficient way. Slowly, steady speeds, acceleration, braking, etc., etc. The same kind of applies with the eco mode. It just uses the water more efficiently. So actually, we ran some tests, and actually, compared to quick mode, eco mode cleans better, dries better, costs less, and actually uses significantly less water and energy just because it's just more efficient. So time is immaterial in that.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's a moot point.
That's such a great explanation, Andrew. And you're absolutely right. If you're driving fast in your car, we all know that is a less efficient way to do it because you're braking hard, you're accelerating hard. It's far better to drive smoothly. And I love that, thinking about these machines kind of driving steadily, and therefore it does take longer, but it is far more efficient. And actually, a lot of them you can set on a timer, can't you, to come on overnight. So it doesn't matter how long it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. When energy's cheaper in the middle of the night, I think that you've got lots of options available to it. Another myth is we've touched on this earlier. It doesn't really matter what program you use, but it does. When you really need the heat and power, like really baked on grease from a Sunday roast, you can pick something like an intensive wash, which ups it to about 70 degrees. But when you've got really delicate glassware, you can drop it down to 40. You don't need to have that kind of sort of temperature. And also the glasses don't really like it. It's going to really mess them up. And so use your machine more effectively. And if I'm allowed one more myth, if that's okay, please use salt in your dishwasher. Um, It is typically what people often ignore. And as you're probably aware, dishwashers want soft water. They don't like hard water. Most of us live in a hard water area, particularly in the southeast, right? And dishwashers hate it. They don't like it. It doesn't make them clean effectively. It's often why you get cloudy sediment on your glasses and things. So they all,
Like powdery residue.
yeah. So they have a water softener in there, which basically uses a chemical reaction, just basically sort of take the minerals out. But if you don't top your salt, the softener can't work effectively. So not only are you reducing the cleaning performance, but also you can increase the chance of lime scale and things that make your machine, last place.
Yes, absolutely. Will shorten the life of that machine. And just for some salt in it, that's That is top tip, Andrew. To put the salt in the machine, it does matter. Sometimes I think it is tempting to go, well, I don't really know what that can be doing, so ignore it. But
Yeah, yeah.
now we know.
I'll be on my gravestone. Put salt in your dishwasher.
The last thing he said. So I think, I mean, it's really important. This is such a lot of great information, Andrew, and I think it really underlines the importance of having experts who have genuinely gone out there and tested things that which does, so that, what kind of things do you do at which that are useful to us as consumers? You're testing these machines. How do we access all of that good inside knowledge that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hopefully people are aware that we're a charity, so we're a social enterprise. All that we make from kind of testing of products and helping people buy products is ploughed back into the charity and the campaigning work. So, well, yes, we do have a subscription element with magazines and things like that. It is there to help people buy products and navigate services, but also it's all going towards changing the law and campaigning for new regulations and highlighting major issues. So, I would say this, but I think it's a pretty worthwhile enterprise. But what we're fundamentally here for, and this is sort of ingrained in our DNA, is helping people. That's what we're here for. We're helping people, whether you want a new dishwasher you don't want to do, or whether you've had a really bad situation with a company or law or sort of piece of regulation. We're kind of there to be there for you. So that's what we do, and we test around 4,000 products and services a year. I do about 65 new dishwashers a year. So tellies will do 250, So it's a real range of stuff. And yeah, you can find us all online in the magazines and things like that. And also we do have a lot of free advice that's just available to anyone. So don't feel like it's just paid for stuff. We are here to help you, regardless of how much money you got.
Super. And you say, yeah, I mean, testing that many dishwashers a year, Andrew, is really quite something. What are the new things that are coming out? Is there like AI technology and Wi-Fi, this and that, all about to launch itself upon us?
Yeah, I mean, I think let's face it, anything in the world now has AI technology of some description like that slapped onto it. Yeah, it's coming to dishwashers and washing machines. It typically is an advancement of the sensor technology that we talked about earlier. It's just a bit more of a sophisticated way of the machine saying, "What am I washing? What should I be doing?" I also run the vacuum cleaners project, and we see that as well. It checks the floor and what dirt is, and then adjusts the suction and things like that. So they're all kind of typically doing the same sort of thing. Is it really AI? Kind of, but it's a nice buzzword. We do a lot of smart technology as well. It's quite useful. You can download additional programs. It does some maintenance things, and also you can start and stop a cycle from your phone. So you can go, as you say, schedule it for the middle of the night when you've got the most cheap energy tariff or something like that. The other thing as well, as we touched on there is some improvements in the drying technology in dishwashers, some using kind of mineral technology and things like that. But typically, you won't see the kind of rampant innovation that you'll see in a smartphone in these appliances. They're a bit more traditional. Things move a little bit slower. But that doesn't mean they're not sophisticated in their own right. So.
That's true. And I suppose really we need them to do one job and do it well.
Absolutely, and let them do it as well. Let them get on with their job. Don't do it for them.
Yeah, I won't rush out and buy a Bluetooth enabled dishwasher then in that case. I'll instead look for one that's got a good eco mode that dries my dishes thoroughly.
Absolutely.
Look, we've got one question, Andrew. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we ask every single guest on the Waterfall podcast, as we are water focused. Do you know your own personal daily water use?
This is a good question. So I've only just moved to this house, so I'm a little bit new to the area. It's a bit bigger than my old place, but we have been. So I don't know specifically. Paris thought I know that's so very something. But we have been learning slowly sort of what our typical water use. You tend to sort of have to give it a little bit of time, don't you, so that you kind of know what it is. But we've certainly been careful with our wastewater recently because I know the charge just went up a while ago. And, is many expenses that you have these days as households, isn't it? You've got to really be aware of it. But I think as just to bring it back to what we were talking about, as I say, I use eco mode in my dishwasher all the time. I run it, at least 5 times a week. So I want that water saving, and I know from testing that does it. So these little changes, these little things you can do, they're all worth doing because as a whole, when they all add up, you never know how much of a big impact it can have on your life.
Absolutely. And I think as you were touching on earlier, these savings, £15 here, £40 there, and just through doing really simple things like pressing that eco button, lowering the temperature by, 10 degrees or so, all collectively add up to something quite substantial. So that's money back in your pocket for no effort whatsoever, no change to your lifestyle, and you're saving water and you're saving energy, which is all good for the planet as well. It really feels like a win-win.
It is absolutely probably win-win-win. So
That's a very positive place to end the podcast today, Andrew. Thank you so much for being with us. I really hope that we can have you back in future. And at that point as well, you'll be settled in there, so you'll be able to tell us what your water
yes.
use is. You're not alone in not knowing, though, I should say. So thank you ever so much, Andrew. That was Andrew Laughlin from Which, who's been with us today, sharing such valuable insights into our everyday appliances, how they perform, how we can save water, energy, money, what we can look at. So if you're considering a new purchase or you just want to get the most from the appliances you've already got, really hope that this episode has helped to give you some information and insight to be able to make informed and water-wise, energy-wise choices. Don't forget to explore more resources and episodes at ccw.org.uk. And until next time, keep saving water and, of course, keep listening. Thank you.